Welcome into Locked On Phillies and happy opening day. The Philly season starts tomorrow. I'll preview their series with the Oakland Athletics, review what they did in spring training, and get you everything you need and pumped up and ready for the 2022 regular season.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, I am your host of Locked On Phillies, Connor Thomas. Thank you for being with me. I talk sports and baseball, especially over at 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio. Now happy to be with you here as your host of Locked On Phillies. And what a time to be a host of Locked On Phillies, or a listener, a watcher, because it is officially opening day. Happy opening day to all of you out there. Even though the Phillies don't play till tomorrow, it's opening day for baseball. And I want to thank you, as always, for making Locked On Phillies your first listen on this opening day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now, the Phils are not quite into their regular season yet. Even though some MLB teams are playing, they're still in the process of traveling up here to Philadelphia to get ready for their series with the Oakland Athletics. I'll talk about that a little later in today's episode, but let's wrap up spring training first with what the Philadelphia Phillies did yesterday down in Florida, still in the Clearwater area. They didn't leave right away, but they went over to Tropicana Field and played the Tampa Bay Rays in what was their final spring training game. And oh boy, if that doesn't get you excited for the season, what the Phils did yesterday, I don't know what does. You must not have a pulse at all. Let's take a look. Well, Ranger Suarez, all he did was go 3 2/3 of perfect baseball. So starting with the pitching, of course, this team, the pitching is going to be kind of an X factor because we know the offense should be there. But Ranger Suarez, that's a very encouraging final look at a kid who had a strong, not just a strong, a breakout 2021, a perfect performance. Only one strikeout, but man, he was just untouchable. Couldn't get anything hard contact off of him yesterday for the Rays. And the Rays, a very good team. Ranger looked awesome. That's a great thing to see. But the really exciting stuff came from two other guys. Mickey Moniak just continues to hit the cover off of the baseball. He homered again yesterday in the Phils' 9-2 win in Tampa. And man, he looked incredible up until a certain point. He did get hit in the hand later in the game and had to be taken out of the game. It was probably about the time for the starters to be removed anyway, but they went ahead and they got x-rays. X-rays came back negative, so no break or anything. He'll still be dealing with a bruise on his hand, and we'll see what that means for opening day. We're going to talk about that when we preview the opening weekend series with the Oakland Athletics. But a little bit of a scare there for Moniak. Should be none the worse for wear, even if he misses a game or two. He's hitting the lights out, almost literally at Tropicana Field, because you can reach the canopy there and reach the catwalk, and we've seen it done a time or two. But he's really come through, and he finished spring training the way he started it, the way he played it in the middle. He was on fire the other day, and he was on fire the day before that, and it's part of the reason why, if he's healthy and if his hand isn't much of an issue with that bruise, he'll be your opening day starter in center field. Who would have thought? Not me. I feel like that Paul Rudd meme, right? Just looking around with the chicken wing. Like, who would have thought we would have been here? Well, Mickey Moniak might have thought, but not many people outside of him and his own personal family and closest friends. But hey, hats off to you, kid. I've already apologized to him multiple times because I didn't think he had it in him. And he proved that he's ready at least to get a better opportunity than what he's got in the past at the major league level. But Mickey Moniak did not have the best day out of the Phillies yesterday. Ranger Suarez did not have the best day out of the Phillies yesterday. The best day came from, your best player, Bryce Harper. All he did was a nice little 2-for-2 afternoon with 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. Like, he's unbelievable. He batted .400 in spring training with everything all said and done. And it was just incredible. So the first one, he caught on the outside part of the plate. And what he did was a great piece of hitting. He just flicked it the other way, and he's so strong, puts it out to left field. You'll see most of his home runs pulled, but he has enough power to the left center gap, his power alley, that he can go ahead and take balls out the opposite way. But then the second swing was so impressive. He got a ball on the outside. It wasn't really on the black, but it was the outside third of the plate from him as a left-handed batter. He didn't even reach. Sometimes you see guys try and go and get the outside pitch, and they're leaning, and they're off balance, and their upper body goes and lengthens out in front of their lower body, and you kind of don't get the power you want to. You stick your butt out a little bit, and you try and just flick it the opposite way. Bryce got a pitch on the outer third, and what he did was took his perfectly normal swing, just extended his arms a little bit, didn't look off balance at all, pulled it to straightaway right field and hit it out easily, just nuked it. He's in mid-season form, and I don't know, let me check the calendar. I got to take a look at my phone. Oh, yeah, it's April. He's in mid-season form on April 7th. I cannot imagine the season that this guy's capable of having, because he looks like he's every bit of capable to exceed what he did last year in 2021. And he won the MVP last year. That's part of the reason, by the way, I've got this headband on. For those of you listening on the podcast, I got a nice new Bryce Harper style headband. I'm letting the flow go a little bit today in honor of the MVP, who seems ready to defend his crown as the best player in the National League. And I don't know what more you could have wanted to see from the Phillies this spring. There aren't really that many points of worry that we didn't already know about. Some teams, you bring in new acquisitions and you get them into spring ball and you're like, ooh, I didn't know that about this guy. He looks a little off here. Or the swing looks like he hasn't really picked it up yet. Or he's having trouble adjusting to a new position in the field. Or he's still getting used to the guys batting around him in the lineup, and it doesn't feel like it fits all that well. The Phillies, I mean, they could not have had a better spring training. I don't know that they could have had a better off season. I hesitate to call it a perfect off season because you should always strive for greater. And there's no such thing as perfection, especially when it comes to sports. But they had a pretty damn good offseason, and I don't know any gripes you can have with what the team's done to this point. It puts them in a really great position to be competitive and uber competitive in a tough division from day one. It's going to be really, really, really exciting to see what they can do this year and to watch them round out spring training with a 9-2 win over the Tampa Bay Rays. It's just a good feeling. It gives you a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling in your chest, and it helps you get excited as a fan of the team for opening day. You don't want to see them lay a dud and think, okay, well, they'll get out and they'll have a slow start to the year and everything. You want your team rolling in hot to start the year, and that's what the Philadelphia Phillies are right now. Top to bottom, this lineup is hot. Now, we still have some questions. We do not know the opening day lineup yet. We have some ideas. We have some hints as to who might play, who might sit. And we know the opening day roster. We talked about it in yesterday's episode. If you want to go check that out to review and remind yourself. Remind. I don't think you have to say that. I think I could just say remind. Remind yourself who's on the opening day roster. You can go ahead and check that out. But we've got options. The biggest questions are who's going to start at third. Will it be Bryson Stott or Alec Bohm? And who's going to start in center? It seemed like Mickey Moniak for sure, but with that bruise on his hand, could it be Matt Vierling? And then Moniak gets the look later in this series this weekend. Who knows? That'll be the fun part, and that'll come out, and I'll go ahead and take a look at that when it does. That'll be out tomorrow. But something I wanted to let you know, just a little programming note as we wrap up spring training. Oh, by the way, if I have not mentioned this yet, the Phillies record, if you had me over on spring training wins, if there's some degenerate gamblers out there, I don't even know that you can bet on that. They were 10-7 in spring training, finished over 500. One more games than they lost, and you can expect them to continue that in the regular season. Unless things go catastrophically wrong, this team better be over 500. But as I was saying before I got into that, a little bit of a Locked On Phillies programming note as we head into opening day. So tomorrow, what my schedule is going to be like, it's going to be doing the morning show over at 97.5 Fanatic, the John Kincaid show. Then I'm going to rush home real quick, get ready to head down to the ballpark. And I'm not really going to have a chance to record an episode before, and I'm not going to really have a chance to record too much of an episode after. What I'm going to be doing is you're going to be getting reactions day after. So there's two ways I'll be getting you information, episodes, content, all of that in the MLB season as we go through the season. So when the team wins, you're going to have what we call Locked On Nows, which are short reaction videos that I'll post out on all of our social media. Go ahead and post here on YouTube, and I'll have those now reactions. They're just short, like minute videos, so you can hear my immediate reaction to the team winning. Probably going to do a lot of those from inside Citizens Bank Park because I'll be down there in the press box taking in the games in person. So that'll be the immediate reaction the night after the win. And then what I'll do is I'll wake up the next day as we get ready to play the next game or the Phillies have the off day. I say I'm not going to be playing any games, even though with this hair and this headband, I look like I could probably step out there and take a couple hacks. I will not be playing for the Phillies, and they'll be better off for it. But as the team prepares, I'll go ahead and record an episode for you, and you'll have the full reaction to the previous day's games on those days. What that means now is sometimes, depending on the schedule, the episodes will not come out Monday through Friday. So tomorrow there will not be an episode of Locked On Phillies as we get ready for opening day, so that I can go ahead and give you an episode on Saturday. We'll still be looking at 5 times a week, maybe more than that if anything crazy does happen and you need to get some extra stuff off my chest and cover some extra topics that we haven't had time to. But we'll get into all that off day tomorrow. The Now, which is the short minute video, will come out after every Phillies game, not just wins, losses as well, so you get the reactions. And then the reaction full episode will be the day after. So that's how we break out the content. It'll still be as up-to-date as possible. And follow us on social media at LO_Phillies on Twitter, at ConnorThomas975 on Twitter. You can see my reaction as it happens because I'll be tweeting throughout the games. I love to go ahead and tweet through sporting events and give you my up-to-date thoughts. But that's how we're going to break down content. But here's the thing. Content's fun, and I love it. It's what I do. This is my job. But what we're looking at, the guys who are doing their jobs on the field. So coming up next, I'm going to preview the opening weekend series with the Oakland Athletics and why the Phillies should have no trouble at all taking at least 2 of 3, if not sweeping, on opening weekend. All right, I want to tell you about my friends over at BetOnline because BetOnline.net is your #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. You can find all of the latest sports developments, including this week's Masters Championships odds. I was just watching Tiger play a little bit before I hopped on here to record this episode. There are also podcasts and reviews for all the different leagues this season, all the information you could ever need. And that's because BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores for all the games. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, let's jump into a quick preview of the Phillies. I almost said the Eagles there. Why is my mind on football? It's baseball season, Connor. Get in the game. The Phillies opening weekend series with the Oakland Athletics. Now, I don't want to go too deep into games 2 and 3 of the series because I'll have episodes to talk about those. The Saturday morning episode will preview those weekend games, but we will look at the series as a whole, as we will do prior to all of these series. We'll get a chance to go ahead and do that. Now, normally before series, well, I don't want to say normally, but often before series, I'm going to reach out to hosts from the team that the Phillies are playing against. So let's say they're playing the Braves. We'll go ahead and talk to Locked On Braves to see if we can get that on for a crossover. Now, being that it's the opening series and there's plenty of Philly storylines just in-house, and also because the Athletics kind of stink, I figured I'd keep this one just the Phillies. But in the future, we will have that so we can see a little bit of information or hear a little bit of information, depending on how you consume your Locked On Phillies. We'll get a little bit of that info from the other side. But this one, just looking at it from the Phillies' perspective, let's take a look at first the projected starters for these upcoming games. The opening day starter for the Oakland Athletics is right-hander Frankie Montas. He had a 3.37 ERA last year, and that was out in Oakland. He's played 6 years in the majors. He's got right around, so his career average is 3.86 ERA. So he's a pretty consistent, like average to slightly above average professional arm. He's not going to give you anything crazy. He's a good strikeout guy. He's a little bit of a power pitcher, a bigger guy at 6'2", 255, and 29 years old. So he's kind of right in that major league peak. Nothing crazy special, but he's also not a guy you're going to come out and completely demolish like he doesn't deserve to be pitching in the major leagues. So that's who you get on opening day. Now, this Phillies lineup should have no trouble with a pitcher the level of Frankie Montas. They should be able to handle him easily. But he's not a just let's show up to the park and we're automatically going to win one. And, of course, Aaron Nola is getting the opening day start for your Philadelphia Phillies in Game 1. That'll be the matchup to look at there. And while we talk about Game 1, let's take a look at the Oakland Athletics projected lineup. Listen to some of these names. I'm just going to read some of these guys off to you. Anthony Kemp, Sean Murphy, Seth Brown, Stephen Piscotty, Elvis Andrus, Kevin Smith. Like, some of these guys sound like creative players, and some of these guys you probably haven't heard their names since 2016. That's not a good sign when you're building a lineup with guys that are comprised of that type of player. And honestly, I don't know who you're scared of if you're a Philadelphia Phillies pitcher, if you're Aaron Nola or any of the other pitchers that face off against the Oakland Athletics, both in this series and throughout the rest of the A's schedule. The American League could very well have two teams in the basement that are fighting for last place between the Baltimore Orioles and the Oakland Athletics, because the A's just refuse to commit any money to making their team better in 2022. I don't know what the plan is out there. I don't have to know because I'm so focused on a good team over here in Philadelphia, which is a nice plus that we have, but not a great lineup. Not anything you need to be afraid of. Aaron Nola should absolutely dominate these guys on opening day. I'm expecting at least 5 innings and pretty shut out ball, maybe 1 or 2 given up by Nola. And the reason I'm just sticking to 5 is because it's a long year. The health of the pitching staff needs to stay up. And if you can get away with getting an early lead, which I believe the Phillies are going to be able to do with how potent their lineup is offensively, I think you can give Aaron Nola a little bit of an early day on opening day. It behooves the team to give these pitchers as much rest early as you can, and this lineup will allow them to do that with how often they're going to score or should be able to score. So maybe a shorter day from Nola than some expect, but it should absolutely be an effective day. All right, get ready for this one now, though. We're going to talk about Game 2's match. We're just going to talk about the pitching matchup real quick. We're not going to go too in-depth until we get the responses, or the results, rather, from opening day, but guess who's the second game starter for the Oakland Athletics? Well, first I'll tell you, for the Phillies, it's going to be Kyle Gibson. He's going to get the start with Zach Wheeler still unavailable right now, pushed back in the rotation a little bit because of his flu setback and shoulder issues and stuff. Wheeler will pitch soon enough, but Gibson goes as the 2 in the rotation if we're going linearly from opening day. And our old pal Cole Irvin will be making the start for the Oakland Athletics. Cole, I can't throw higher than 84 miles an hour. Irvin is going to go out there and try and be a crafty lefty, I guess. We know very well here in Philadelphia from his time here wearing that beautiful, the typical number 47 that all the aces wear, right? Just, he was never going to work here. I don't really think he's going to work all that well in Oakland this year. And he's just, frankly, like, he's a lower level major league pitcher. The Phillies should dominate against him come Saturday afternoon. And then the matchup in the final game of the series, it's going to be Dalton Jeffries for the Athletics. So Dalton Jeffries is a right-handed pitcher, 6 foot, 180. He's that just prototypical average guy size. Doesn't really give you anything all that special on the mound. He's a younger player. He's only been up for 2 years, and he's only 26 years old. So he could develop into something. And he had a nice year last year with a 3.6 ERA, but only in 15 innings. This is going to be a year where he gets his first real look at extended innings for the Oakland Athletics. And normally in those first years, there's a lot of growing pains. That's probably going to start in his matchup with the Philadelphia Phillies in Game 3 of these teams' regular seasons. And he'll face off against Zach Eflin. So Ranger Suarez is kind of getting pushed back a little bit because he did throw this last spring training game. That means they're setting him up to start the second series of the year for the Phillies and be that first guy there, or have Zach Wheeler start that and have Suarez available as kind of a 1-2 punch. But Zach Eflin should be able to handle a matchup with Dalton Jeffries. And this series comes down to offense, offense, offense. The Phillies lineup is significantly better, and we should have no worries about their ability to take care of Oakland. That's why, when I said my tease, they absolutely, like, it would be not a doomsday scenario because it's the first 3 games, but I would be disheartened. I would be disappointed if the Phillies don't win 2 of these games at least, and they should win 3. We should have the brooms out. And you know what? I'm going to get the broom out of the closet for every time the Phillies sweep, and I'm going to bring it down here. You're going to see me with it. Maybe I'll lean it up against the wall behind me as I do the next episode following a sweep. Maybe we'll have that come out on Monday's episode, because this is a team that the Phillies should absolutely dominate. So if that doesn't get you excited for opening day, what we talked about in the first segment, what we talked about here, I don't know what will, because this team's ready to go. But if you need one more thing, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what's going to go on in the proceedings for the first game against the Oakland Athletics, and just a look at opening day in general across Major League Baseball, because I know If you're a baseball fanatic, you're watching the other games today, you're taking a look around the league, and we'll have a scoreboard check-in to see if there's any scores of interest that are going on or have already come out today. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. I also want you to check out Locked On MLB Prospects with my good friend Lindsey Crosby. Lindsey knows all of the MLB prospects, every single one of them. He knows their blood type, their middle name, what hospital they were born in. Okay, maybe not all of that, but he knows prospects better than anyone else you can get content from. Go ahead and check out his work, the deep dives on Phillies prospects, draft prospects, some other young players around the league. Check all of it out at Locked On MLB Prospects. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And I want to let you know this episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. So there's an ever-increasing number of makes and models of cars. They're coming out new every day. It's crazy. You can't even keep up. But that's why we've got Rock Auto, because Rock Auto can keep up, and they're easily accessible. If you have a computer, you've got rockauto.com. You can just log right on there, or you can find it on your phone. You got a computer in your pocket nowadays. It's so easy. So why should you go there? Well, they help you save time and money because you're choosing to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same exact parts when you go to your local chain store or in-person brick and mortar store. Don't do that. Go to rockauto.com because they're a family business. They've been serving do-it-yourselfers like you for over 20 years, and their prices have been reliably low the whole time they've been doing it. They've got everything you could possibly need to fix or update your car. So I want you to go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Make sure you write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you in. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need, rockauto.com. Okay, so let's take a look. Our first check-in around the league. This is basically the out-of-town scoreboard. I'm going to do this. It won't be a full segment normally, but because we've got opening day, just going to give you a little bit of notes on some of these teams that we see playing on opening day that actually got their games in despite the rain. Very rainy up here in the Northeast. I know the Yankees and Red Sox were canceled, unfortunately, or postponed rather. Some games up the Northeast corridor and across the country have been postponed because of rain, so that's unfortunate. The Phillies should have fine weather to get their game in tomorrow. But the only game going on currently because of some of the postponements is Brewers-Cubs locked in a 0-0 matchup out there in the Windy City. The Brewers are going to be interesting. The Cubs, not so much, because the Cubs could very well be in the basement of the NL Central. But the Brewers, if they don't win the division, they'll be fighting basically with the Cardinals. It seems to be a two-team race out there in that division. If the Brewers don't win the division, they could be a thorn in the Phillies side for one of those wild card spots if it comes down to it. So have to keep an eye on the Brewers. You have the Guardians, the newly named Cleveland Guardians, of course, changing their name this offseason, will take on the Kansas City Royals. American League matchup. Team's not that good. Not too worried about that. The Pirates and Cardinals will play at 4:15, and the Cardinals are that other team that I mentioned that could be, if they don't win the Central, in that wild card race with the Phillies. Then tonight at 7:05, probably the most exciting game for NL East fans, the Mets and the Nationals will take on each other, and they'll go ahead and go at it down there in Washington. They're going to try and get that game in at 7:05, despite the rain that I was talking about before. So that's scheduled first pitch. We get to go ahead and get our first look at the new look money-spending Mets and the lowly Nationals, who probably will be right around 70 wins on the season. The Braves also in action later tonight. They take on the Cincinnati Reds, who sold off basically everybody this offseason and don't seem like they're in for much of a competitive season. The Braves will have probably their ring ceremony down there because that game is in Atlanta. And you'll get your first look as a Phillies fan of if they're possibly going to repeat as NL East division champions and as World Series champions. The Braves fans hope they will. Of course, we hope they're terrible and they lose every game, but we'll go ahead and see how that plays out. That'll be of interest as well. Your programming rounds out tonight with Major League Baseball, the West Coast games, Astros and Angels. The Angels are going to be an exciting team. The Astros, new look without Carlos Correa there now. But that'll be an interesting game if you want to stay up late. And then Padres, Diamondbacks doesn't really have all that much draw, but the Padres are a team to keep our eye on as Phillies fans, because if they don't win the West, let's say the Giants win the West, they're another team. Could be a wild card. They're going to be put into that kind of realm of wild card eligibility because they're going to be missing Fernando Tatis for a lot of the year as he recovers from his injury stemming from a motorcycle accident in the offseason. So if the Padres end up right around 500 at like the All-Star break in the second half, they could be a team that the Phillies have their eye on chasing down. Now, hopefully the Phillies just win 95 games and we don't have to worry about any of those teams. But that's a look at what's going on in Major League Baseball on opening day and the first looks at some teams that could have an effect on the Philadelphia Phillies season. Listen, that's it. That's the end of our programming for this MLB offseason. I want to take a second just to thank you so much because I know the offseason for baseball, especially this year, with everything going on with the lockout, man, it felt like it was ages. I only came on at the tail end as your host of Locked On Phillies, but still, listen, I know how tough it was as a baseball fan. I'm a huge baseball fan. You know this about me. And it was a difficult offseason. Thank you for sticking with us here at Locked On Phillies. Thank you for sticking with baseball. I know it's not easy. This game sometimes has a way of pushing people away, but you made it. It's opening day. And the next time you hear from me, the Philadelphia Phillies will have already played a baseball game in 2022. It's going to be an incredibly exciting year. So everybody take a deep breath and prepare yourself for what's going to be probably, hopefully, the most exciting Philadelphia Phillies season in a decade. Man, that sounds good, doesn't it? That's all I've got for you today. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. Now I want you to go check out Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, Sully, he's awesome. He tells you everything you need to know about the MLB in general. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So go check out Sully and his deep dives on the history of the game, the current status of the game. He'll take you around the league as well. All that great stuff there. I want to thank you for subscribing to the YouTube, rating, reviewing. We are only 3 subscribers away from that bonus content at 150 subscribers, which is talk about Hans Krause, a young Phillies minor league pitcher that made his major league debut last year at a spot start, and what I know about him, a little bit of a personal connection there. So get those subscribers up, keep those rolling in, keep those follows on Twitter rolling. I just really appreciate you guys helping me get through the offseason. Hopefully I did the same for you, but now we're here. Opening day tomorrow for the Phillies. Let's get excited because this season is going to be one to remember. Cannot wait to go through it with all of you right here on Locked On Phillies, and I will talk to you on the other side of the Phillies' first game.